Christianity was introduced to Africa during the 1st century AD and remains the continent's dominant religion as of 2024. Several notable African figures, such as Tertullian, Perpetua, Felicity, Clement of Alexandria, Origen, Cyprian, Athanasius, and Augustine of Hippo, made significant contributions to early Christian theology and doctrine. In the 4th century, the kingdom of Aksum, located in modern Ethiopia and Eritrea, was among the earliest regions globally to declare Christianity the state religion. Other areas, including the Nubian kingdoms of Nabatea, Makuria, and Alodia, along with various Berber Christian states, followed suit. Following the Muslim expansion into North Africa, Christians experienced increased pressure to convert, partly due to taxes like the jizya and societal disadvantages for non-Muslims. Despite these pressures, many Christians were allowed to worship freely. The Orthodox Tewahedo Church in Ethiopia and Egypt's Coptic and Eastern Orthodox churches managed to endure these invasions. However, over time, Islam spread through these territories, although the exact mechanisms and timeline remain debated among historians. In Egypt, Christian communities faced limitations such as bans on building churches and were subject to persecution under rulers like Al-Hakim, who reigned from 996 to 1021. During the Middle Ages, Ethiopia remained a uniquely independent Christian state, maintaining its own practices and biblical canon without European missionary influence. Portuguese explorers and missionaries began arriving in West Africa in the late 15th century, first reaching Guinea, Mauritania, the Gambia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and later Nigeria and the Kingdom of Congo. Here, Catholicism gained ground as local elites converted. The 19th century scramble for Africa saw a resurgence of missionary activity from Europe, especially along the coasts and in Central and Southern Africa. These missionaries often worked in tandem with colonial regimes. Today, these movements form the backbone of Africa's growing Christian population. Step into history with style. Discover unique apparel, books, home decor, and accessories inspired by ancient civilizations and untold stories from 𝐂𝐄𝐴 history. Shop now through the link below and bring the past to life. In 2024, Africa was home to roughly 734 million Christians from various denominations, an astonishing increase from just 10 million in 1900. In just over a century, traditional African religions were overtaken by Christianity and Islam. Despite this, many communities still blend traditional beliefs with Christianity. The religion is predominant in most southern, central, and southeast African countries, with Coptic Christians also forming a notable minority in Egypt. A 2018 study from Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary found that Africa now has more Christians than any other continent, surpassing Latin America and Europe. Historical development of Christianity in Africa. Christianity's African roots trace back to Egypt around 50 AD. Tradition holds that Mark the Evangelist became Alexandria's first bishop by 43 AD. Initially, this church spoke Greek, but by the 2nd century, scriptures and liturgy had been translated into several local languages. Christianity spread early into Sudan and eventually established churches within the Nubian kingdoms by the 6th century, closely linked with Egypt. The faith also expanded into the Maghreb, reaching Carthage by the late 2nd century. The Christian communities there were connected to the Roman Church and even produced 3 popes, Gelasius I, Miltiades, and Victor I, all North African Berbers. Leaders like Augustine and Monica emerged from these regions. By the early 3rd century, Alexandria's church experienced significant growth and began establishing bishoprics. Around this time, its leader started being called Pope. However, persecution under Roman Emperor Decius drove many Christians into the desert. Some remained there even after the danger passed, leading to the birth of Christian monasticism, which would later spread into Europe. Renewed persecutions occurred under Emperor Diocletian in the early 4th century. Meanwhile, King Ezana of Aksum adopted Christianity, making it Ethiopia's state religion. By the 5th century, North Africa had more bishoprics than any other Roman region. A council held by the Vandals in Carthage saw 460 bishops attend. African theologians, Origen, Lactantius, Augustine, Tertullian and others helped shape global Christian doctrines, defending the faith against heresies, and introducing concepts like the Trinity, early biblical translations, exegesis, and monasticism. Their influence reached as far as Europe, where African rhetorical and academic traditions shaped emerging Christian thought. The impact of Islamic expansion Christianity survived Muslim conquests, especially in Egypt. Most early Muslim rulers did not actively seek conversions, and Christians remained a majority in some areas into the 8th century. The reasons for eventual Islamization are complex, ranging from socio-economic pressures and political pragmatism to religious confusion between Christianity and Islam at the lay level. The jizya tax and social incentives played a role in conversions, as did internal divisions and the lack of a strong monastic structure in the Maghreb. North Africa's Christian decline was also influenced by war's weak leadership and the emigration of Christians to Europe. In contrast, Egyptian Christianity remained more resilient due to its monastic foundation. Still, even in Egypt, rulers like Al-Hakim enacted harsh measures, demolishing churches and forcing conversions. Some scholars believe Christians remained a majority in Egypt up until the Fatimid Caliphate. Though reduced, Christian presence persisted in parts of North Africa. Catholic communities were documented from Tripolitania to Morocco for centuries after the Arab conquest. A Christian group in Kala, central Algeria, was recorded in 1114. Pilgrimages to Christian tombs in Carthage and the influence of European calendar reforms also suggest ongoing ties with Rome. High and late Middle Ages Christianity continued to face challenges under Muslim dynasties like the Almohads and Almoravids. Christians in places like Tunis and Kairouan were pressured to convert. Some resisted, and historical accounts mention Christian populations in Tunis as late as the 15th century. These communities, while often isolated from Rome, remained active and even expanded churches in some instances. Tunisian Christians, including Berbers and descendants of European Christians, lived in Nefzawa into the early 1400s. The Christian presence in Tozeur lasted until the 18th century. Mozarabs, Christians expelled from Muslim Spain, were recognized as a distinct church in Morocco by Pope Innocent IV. European missions to North Africa. In 1225, Pope Honorius III authorized Dominican friars to start missions in Morocco. Later, Pope Innocent IV elevated Bishop Lope Fernandez de Ain to oversee the African Church, reviving an ancient title. The bishopric of Marrakesh continued until the 1500s. According to historian Ibn Abi Zar, the Almohad ruler Al-Mamun allowed church construction in Marrakesh for Christians. The Pope thanked several Muslim rulers for safeguarding Christian communities and sought permission to build fortresses along the coast, though this was denied. The next significant chapter of Christianity in Africa commenced in the 15th century with the arrival of the Portuguese. Following the completion of the Reconquista, Christian forces from Portugal and Spain seized several strategic ports across North Africa. The Society of Jesus, also known as the Jesuits, initiated missionary activities as early as 1548 in various parts of the continent. By 1561, Portuguese missionary Goncalo da Silveira successfully converted the Monomotapa, the ruler of the Shona in present-day Zimbabwe. Around the same period, a smaller contingent of Jesuits also started working in Abyssinia, historically known as Ethiopia Superior. Despite frequent episodes of oppression and hostility, the Jesuits managed to sustain their missions for nearly a century. They introduced Catholic teachings in areas that previously adhered to deep-rooted religious traditions. During the 1500s, the Jesuits also expanded into the Congo Kingdom, building upon an earlier Catholic presence which had already led to the establishment of a local church. Similar missionary activities occurred in Mozambique and Angola until 1759, when Portuguese political pressure led to the suppression of the society. Big thanks to 𝐻𝑒𝐻𝑒𝐿 for powering our site. Launch your dream website or store with lightning-fast hosting, a free domain, and 24/7 support, all at unbeatable prices. Perfect for blogs, brands, or businesses. Start building now via the link below. Jesuit missionaries faced minimal competition from other Christian denominations across Africa. Although other religious orders attempted to evangelize in Portuguese-controlled areas, they did not gain as much traction. The Jesuits' influence was initially bolstered by the patronage system in the 15th century, but as other European powers began establishing their missions, Portuguese dominance waned. By the mid-18th century, Portugal's hold on Africa had weakened, leading to the expulsion of the Jesuits from places like Angola and Mozambique, which significantly reduced the Catholic presence there. The Marrakesh bishopric persisted until the late 1500s, remaining under the authority of Seville. In 1631, Juan de Prada was killed while trying to revive the mission. A Franciscan monastery established in 1637 was destroyed in 1659 after the collapse of the Saadi dynasty. A smaller Franciscan chapel and monastery remained active in the Jewish quarter or Mela of the city until the 18th century. In the Horn of Africa, the Orthodox 𝒂𝐻𝒆𝐻𝒆 Church experienced a schism in 1993, splitting into the Ethiopian Orthodox 𝒂𝐻𝒆𝐻𝒆 Church and the Eritrean Orthodox 𝒂𝐻𝒆𝐻𝒆 Church. The Piente churches emerged as part of a Protestant Reformation within Ethiopian Christianity. Catholicism grew in North Africa following the French colonization, supported largely by European settlers. Most of these settlers left the region after independence. According to Algeria's 1960 census, 1,050,000 non-Muslim civilians, mainly Catholics, resided there, comprising 10% of the population, including 140,000 Jews. During French rule, Algeria's Catholic population surpassed 1 million. The mass departure of the Pieds Noirs in the 1960s led to more Christians of Berber and Arab heritage living in France than in the Maghreb. In 2009, the United Nations recorded 45,000 Roman Catholics and between 50,000 and 100,000 Protestants in Algeria. The Kabylie region, especially Tizi Ouzou province, saw the highest rates of conversion. Some reports estimate that Christians make up 1% to 5% of the population in that area. A 2015 study suggested that 380,000 Muslims in Algeria had converted to Christianity. Before Morocco gained independence in 1956, the country had about 500,000 European residents, predominantly Christians. The Catholic population in French Morocco alone reached 360,000, or around 4.1% of the population. In 1950, Catholics made up 14.5% of the population in the Spanish-controlled areas. With 113,000 Catholic settlers, mainly of Spanish, Portuguese, French, or Italian origin, estimates from the U.S. State Department and Pew Templeton put the number of Moroccan Christians between 20,000 and 45,000, mostly concentrated in Casablanca, Tangier, and Rabat. Many are foreigners, though conversions among native Moroccans are reportedly increasing, particularly in rural areas. Most converts are baptized secretly. Tunisia, before its independence in 1956, had 255,000 Europeans, mostly Christians. The local Christian community, which includes Tunisians of Berber, Arab, Italian, and French descent, is about 50,000 strong and is spread throughout the country. US reports also mention thousands of Tunisian converts to Christianity. Some studies and media accounts highlight a rise in Christian conversions among Berber populations. Christianity in Africa began to take on local cultural forms. Thomas C. Oden noted that African Christians, from Copts to Moors, form a significant part of African Christianity's diversity. Africans adopted aspects of Christianity that aligned with their cultural norms, leading to movements like the Kimbanguist Church. Simon Kimbangu, the founder, questioned whether divine messages should come through Europeans. His church taught that Jesus was black and rejected European religious symbols such as crucifixes, which they viewed as idolatrous. The church also permitted women as priests and allowed polygamy based on Old Testament precedents. Dona Beatriz, a Central African woman, argued that Jesus never opposed polygamy. She was executed for her beliefs. European missionaries attempting to maintain Victorian values while promoting literacy condemned these practices. 𝒄𝙗𝒏𝙚𝒍 died imprisoned for his unorthodox teachings. Christianity also created social tensions within African communities. In Botswana, for example, King Khama III's Christian beliefs conflicted with those of his father, Segoma. Young leaders often used Christianity to question traditional authority. Prophets like Dona Beatriz politicized Christianity and promoted nationalist causes, such as planning to overthrow the Ugandan state. Missionary teachings were interpreted in diverse ways, leading to unique African expressions of Christianity. In Cotonou, Benin, the Celestial Church of Christ emerged in the 20th century under Samuel Joseph Bileo Oshofa. This was part of a broader trend of indigenous African churches forming and adapting Christianity to local contexts. And David Adamo of Nigeria's Aladura Church emphasized scriptures such as the Psalms, feeling that missionaries failed to share the true spiritual power of the Bible. His church interpreted these texts in ways that resonated with their lives. Movements to localize Islam also occurred. In Nigeria during the 1980s, efforts to remove Arab cultural influences from Islam led to clashes. The Ahmadiyya sect, which translated the Quran into Swahili and did not consider Muhammad the final prophet, faced resistance from Sunni Muslims. Conflicts emerged between reformist groups and traditionalists, often escalating into violence. The 1918 influenza pandemic furthered Christianity's spread in Africa. The failure of colonial powers and churches to address the crisis spurred anti-imperial sentiment. Prophetic and independent Christian movements grew, including the Aladura movement in Nigeria, which later became the Christ Apostolic Church. Many offshoots emerged through the 1950s and spread globally. One such church, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, founded in 1952, now has congregations across Africa, Europe, and North America. Missionaries emphasized teaching the gospel in native African languages. They translated the Bible and introduced Western education through Christian schools, which taught English, math, philosophy, and European moral values. However, tensions existed between the religious and secular goals of these schools. Christianity in Africa has seen explosive growth, while traditional religions have declined. From only 9 million Christians in 1900, the number surged to 380 million by 2000 and 658 million by 2020. The population is projected to exceed 760 million by 2025. In 2020, Christians made up 49% of Africa's population, compared to 42% Muslims. By 2023, an estimated 718 million Africans identified as Christian. A 2006 Pew Forum study found 147 million Pentecostal and Charismatic Christians in Africa. David Barrett noted over 11,500 denominations with 552,000 congregations across the continent by 1995, many unknown to the West. This growth is now driven by African evangelism and high birth rates, rather than foreign missionaries. African Christianity ranges from ancient Orthodox traditions to new denominations like those in Nigeria. Movements like the Aladura churches and the Nazareth Baptist Church have arisen, along with global-reaching churches such as UDOLGC. Populations of Adventists and Jehovah's Witnesses also exist. A 2015 study estimated that 2.1 million African Christians had converted from Islam, mostly to Protestant groups. Many scholars now believe Christianity's global center is shifting toward Africa and Asia. Historian 𝙤𝒐𝒏𝙚𝒍 described African Christianity as a potential future model for global faith. The World Christian Encyclopedia projected 633 million Christians in Africa by 2025. According to 2020 data, most of East Africa is Christian, with a strong Protestant majority. Sub-Saharan Africa has witnessed the emergence of megachurches with weekly attendance exceeding 2,000. These churches, mostly Pentecostal, are prevalent in countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, and Tanzania. Nigeria's Glory Dome, opened in 2018, is currently the largest church auditorium with a seating capacity of 100,000. Christianity is one of the dominant religions across the African continent. As of 2020, Pew Research estimated that approximately 53% of Africa's population identified as Christian, with total numbers reaching up to 800 million individuals. Don't forget to subscribe to 𝐤𝒄𝙘𝒆 History for more insightful videos on African history and culture. Catholicism, Roman Catholic Church. The Catholic presence in Africa has seen remarkable growth, increasing from just 2 million members in 1900 to around 140 million by 2000. By 2005, approximately 135 million Catholics lived in Africa, and that number rose to 158 million in 2009 during Pope Benedict XVI's visit. Most African Catholics belong to the Latin Church, although Eastern Catholic communities are also present. Orthodox Christianity, Oriental Orthodox Churches, Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, 37 million members, Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria, 10 million, Eritrean Orthodox Tewahedo Church, 2 million. Eastern Orthodox Church, Greek Orthodox Church of Alexandria, 500,000 members. Protestantism. Protestantism is the largest Christian group in Africa, comprising about 35.9% of the continent's population. Pew Research estimated around 300 million Protestants in sub-Saharan Africa in 2010, with other sources placing the figure closer to 400 million. Evangelicals alone number around 200 million. Notable Protestant groups include Anglicans, approximately 60 million, Lutherans, around 23 million, Baptists, about 29 million, Methodists, roughly 25 million, Presbyterians, over 20 million, Adventists, around 12 million, United Churches, approximately 19 million. Anglicanism. Major Anglican communities include Church of Nigeria, 20.1 million, Church of Uganda, 8.1 million, Anglican Church of Kenya, 5 million, Episcopal Church of South Sudan and Sudan, 4.5 million. Baptists. Key Baptist denominations include Nigerian Baptist Convention with 5 million members, Baptist Union of Uganda with 2.5 million, and Baptist Community of Congo with 2.1 million. Catholic Apostolic, also known as 𝒂𝒉𝒐𝒻. The new Apostolic Church has 16 million adherents across Africa. Lutheranism. Lutheran churches represent over 24 million Christians, including the Ethiopian Evangelical Church Mekane Yesus with 8.3 million members, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Tanzania with 6.5 million, and the Malagasy Lutheran Church with 3 million. Methodism. The World Methodist Council reports 17.08 million members in Africa. Notable bodies include Methodist Church Nigeria with 2 million members, Methodist Church of Southern Africa with 1.7 million members, and the United Methodist Church of Ivory Coast with 1.08 million members. Reformed churches, also known as Calvinism. Presbyterians and other Reformed bodies make up a significant portion. The Presbyterian Church of East Africa has 4 million members. The Presbyterian Church of Nigeria has 3.8 million members. The Church of Jesus Christ in Madagascar has 3.5 million members. And the United Church in Zambia has 3 million members. Pentecostalism. Pentecostals make up over 35% of Africa's Christian population, around 202 million in 2015, with some estimates suggesting up to 400 million. Key churches include Ethiopian 𝒂𝐭 Church with 9 million members, Ethiopian Full Gospel Believers Church with 4.5 million members, and the Assemblies of God, Nigeria with 3.6 million members. The Mennonites. The Masoretic Christos Church in Ethiopia boasts an impressive 470,000 members. Other evangelical groups. Evangelical Church of West Africa, estimated 5 million members. Independent and African-initiated churches. Independent Christian movements account for approximately 97 to 128 million believers. African-initiated churches alone have over 60 million members, including Zion Christian Church, 15 million. Eternal Sacred Order of Cherubim and Seraphim, 10 million. Kimbangwist Church, 5.5 million. Redeemed Christian Church of God, 5 million. Church of the Lord, Aladura, 3.6 million. Restorationist movements. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, 600,000 members in Africa. From its early roots in North Africa, where it once thrived in ancient cities like Alexandria and Carthage, to its deep entwinement with colonial missions and its explosive growth in the modern era, Christianity in Africa has undergone a remarkable transformation. Today, Africa is not just a recipient of the faith, it is a global powerhouse of Christian thought, practice, and revival. With hundreds of millions of believers spread across diverse denominations, African Christianity is shaping the future of the global church in powerful ways. This is not just history, it's a living, evolving story of faith, resilience, and identity.